So I know you mentioned that, your assistant director is African American. So, and I know I have a Black director, African American director, and for AMP, and I did this thing on my other YouTube channel called Colorguard Jeopardy, and it's basically just asking random questions. And one of the questions that I ask, and it always gets people, is, do you know how many Black directors we have on the board of directors of WGI or DCI? Do you happen to know?
That's an
Zero.
excellent question. Yeah, my guess was unfortunately going to be zero, but I didn't know for sure.
Most people always say maybe one or two, and then they're shocked when it's like, no, it's zero. And so I always sit back and I wonder, why do you think that African Americans don't have as many prominent roles in the marching arts industry as other minor or other ethnicities? Sorry. I'm not saying that we're not here. I own my own color guard. I know other African American directors and things like that. Yeah, so it's not that we're not here. But as far as just for example, just in the world guards of WGI alone, there's only one African American director. You know what I'm saying? Out of the 20 or so world color guards that are in WGI. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, why do you think that there aren't as many prominent roles for African Americans in the marching arts?
Yeah, that's a loaded question for sure.
Yeah.
I think that it really does come down to that rooted and internalized racism. And I think that's a difficult conversation to have. I don't know if this is the right platform right now to discuss as much, but if you want your short answer, there it is. And unfortunately, that is something that is learned and can be unlearned, but oftentimes is something that flies underneath the radar. It's not something that for those people that are making decisions, or because I've had experience as a human resources director as well, I know a little bit of that hiring and recruiting process. It's not something that people are implicitly saying oh, this person comes from this ethnicity, so I do not want them. But when they're comparing that against other candidates, what we're trained to believe is valuable or positive is a lot of the qualities that these non-minority students have, or people that are of the majority and not the people that are of the minority have. And so I think that unfortunately, that seems to have seeped its way to the very highest level of not only our industry of WGI and of the marching arts, but you see that across the nation for our corporate culture as well, and even our government, right? Where we just elected our Vice President, Kamala Harris, but as she leaves the Senate, there goes the one African-American woman in the entire Senate representing the entirety of our nation. And so, it's all over, and I don't think that I have the perfect one word answer for why that is.
I don't think there is a one word answer for that.
It's certainly difficult.
Honestly, I feel like that question alone is ultimately the one word is racism, but as far as getting into different, there's just so many different factors to put inside that as to why it could always be it's not what you know, but a who you know type of thing. Or it can also be just the lack of education. There's so many different areas that you can really go when talking about that question. And then, like you said, it's not even just within our marching arts. Like you said, look at our government right now. When I was a kid, I used to always joke around and say, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to be president. But of course, not actually ever thinking or dreaming that I could ever do anything like that, or ever even get close to anything like that. So this year, of course, to see that and to see Kamala, you know what I'm saying? To see her get, I was speechless. I can't even say anything right now because I'm oh my God, as a little kid, me sitting here thinking, you learn about slavery, you learn about all these things, and you're oh yeah, I'm never going to have a shot at that. And to see that, it's wow, that was so powerful. It was definitely a very, very powerful moment. And with that, I'm just you know what? If this can happen, we can have some change. It's the unfortunate part about it is that it's taking so long. But the fortunate part about it is that we are so much better than where we were thousands and thousands of years ago. or even when slavery, yes, well, I still think racism still exists, not even just in marching arts, but in the world in general. But I definitely don't think that it exists as worse, as bad as it did before. You know what I'm saying? So baby steps, is all we can do within this world, but as well as like the marching arts, it's definitely baby steps. It's just unfortunate that the marching arts isn't as big as like football or like basketball or things like those big sports. So it's one of those things where I'm afraid of is like if we don't catch it before it spreads, too much, it's gonna be bad, So I'm glad that this happened this summer. I'm glad that this was an eye opener. I'm glad that people are starting to speak out and use platforms to be able to have these conversations, and just like you have to just be comfortable with being uncomfortable with this type of thing, So that's just, it's a work in progress for sure. But yeah, I definitely agree. It's a loaded question for sure. Do you think that the Black Lives Matter movement will continue to make its way throughout the marching arts industry, or do you think that it will die back down before everybody's like seasons and Corona is actually like over and everything?
Yeah, part of me feels like this is getting at predicting the future, and we all know none of us can do that anymore, right?
Listen, like I don't even want to plan anything for my birthday next year.
Right. I'm gonna start looking into next week, and that's as far as I'm going. Okay.
You plan something and God laughs at you because it's like, yeah, no, this is not how it's gonna go.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
Did.
Right. I'll definitely do my best. I'll give it my best shot here. When Black Lives Matter really started on Twitter, I believe around 2014 or circa, somewhere around there, a couple years ago, I believe, to the murder of Trayvon Martin, that was just the start of something that people have been feeling for a long time, but couldn't band together around, or couldn't put it into motion. And for minorities, but particularly for African Americans and people identify as Black around the world, but particularly in the US, that was their one unifier, right? And I think that's what people lose right now, where they say, like, what direction is this going? It's not going in any direction. There's no one leader, right? It is an idea that, and just a statement that Black lives do matter, right? In order for everyone else's lives to matter, ours do first, and ours do too, right? It's really important to just recognize that, because through actions, through words, through rules, a lot of things have said, hey, your life does not matter to us in the past. And that's what we've picked up on growing up. And so if that's the direction that we continue to go in, I don't think that there's any slowing down. I don't think there's any stopping. And particularly one thing I've been wanting to say too is that not only is my marching band a great home and a great family, but the generation that I'm growing up with, Generation Z, will not tolerate this. I'm so excited. Yeah, I'm so excited for exactly. And that
we're not tolerating none of that. Okay,
we're not.
That's the thing about this generation. We are definitely. There's a lot of people speaking out. When this shooting happened down here in Delaware, the amount of people that I know, what I'm saying, from college that were leading protests, or leading actual things around here, but peaceful protests, of course, not anything that was the crazy or the riots or anything like that. So it's seeing people use their Twitter for actual not just crazy social media drama, but speaking out about what mattered. I was yeah, see, this is our generation. We're gonna be the ones to try to make some change. At least crossing our fingers anyways.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really do have my fingers crossed for our generation. And, I'm on the older end, you and I are on the older end of this. So it's several years younger than us. And so as they start to, exit high school and start to get into college, and even after college too, and get into the workforce and into the real world, so to speak, I'm so excited to see that change and to see us pressuring all those different communities, right? From corporate culture to activities, groups, everything, government, like we mentioned earlier. I'm so excited to have us just spread that message of loving people, and to care about the rights and the equality of others, to treat everyone the same with kindness. And So yeah, I don't think that there's any slowing down. Of course, focus will always change, and with everything that lasts for a long time, there will be ebbs, there will be flows, things will change over time. But I think that this past year was another great step, as we've said, forward. And I hope that we can continue to take more, as long as we're going in that direction. At the end of the day,
I agree.
I'm happy.
Well, I just want to thank you so much for having this discussion with me today at this HBCU IMB Roundtable. Again, I am Erica from Beyond the Color, and I am so thankful that we are having these conversations, and I pray and hope that these conversations do not stop.